Hi, everyone. It's 4:03. Let's give it to 4:05 to start. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the December CAG meeting. Thanks for being here. I am Paula Crespo from the Pratt Center for Community Development, one of your co-facilitators, and I am going to turn it over to Ethan.
Thank you, Paula. Hello, everybody. Happy holidays. Let me just share my screen. Is that showing up okay?
Yep, I like the snowflake.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All righty, everybody. Welcome to CAG meeting number 64. My name is Ethan Kraft. I'm a member of the program management team for Eastside Coastal Resiliency. I'm joined tonight by members from the Department of Design and Construction, as well as our sister agencies. And with that, we'll go ahead and dive in. We've got pretty much every topic covered to some extent tonight. On our agenda, we'll do our usual construction progress, and then I will provide an updated status and timeline. We'll go through some what we've heard, environmental reporting, parallel conveyance construction progress, and then an update on just our upcoming meetings. As always, the three main project areas under ESCR are Project Area 1, which is largely East River Park, Project Area 2, which is complete on the northern end, and then throughout, we've got parallel conveyance, which is the interior flood protection. Snapshot of contracts. This is just showing kind of what's open and what's closed in terms of park access. The Delancey Street Bridge is generally open, but this week it is closed, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple of slides. Groliers Hook Bridge remains open, as well as the connection at Pier 42, and then all of the entrances north of Houston Street, and including Houston Street, are closed. So under Project Area 1 on the southern portion, they are finishing up some floodwall and floodgate operations. I think that the bulk of the work now is happening sort of along the FDR Drive near Pier 42. In Area 2, we have ongoing construction of the Parks Maintenance and Operations building, as well as the tennis building. I have a photo of the tennis building later on in the presentation. And then in Area 3, we have the Esplanade reconstruction. A lot of work is going on at the East Houston Street retaining wall, and then some clean fill installation, more so than excavation in that area. And in Area 4, we do have excavation. We have deep sewer work going on there, buried flood wall installation, and then just some other general utility work and things like that. Area 5 near Reese Houses, we have utility work. We are continuing to prepare for the East 13th Street floodwall construction, which I will go into more in a couple of slides. Phase 6, Area 6, excuse me, is the open area of the park. As has been the case since we opened that area, we have punch list items going on there, but there's a lot of very visible punch list items going on now. We have the Delancey Street Bridge closure. There's been a lot of activity on ball fields 1 and 2. And then we're doing a lot of power and utility work for that area, just as part of the punch list. And then number 7 is the entirety of the FDR. We have ongoing partial lane closures, usually at night, and that's for bridge work and utility installations, as well as some flood wall installation. So the temporary Delancey Street Bridge closure is ongoing. It is anticipated to continue tomorrow. This is necessary to accommodate the installation of the permanent railing for the bridge. Again, I have a photo of that in a couple of slides. You can still access the park or exit the park from the Corlier's Hook Bridge, and then, of course, the Pier 42 entrance and exit. We do anticipate needing to close this bridge again in January. We just found out about this today. So we will issue a formal advisory related to this closure. The contractor just wasn't able to complete the rail work this week. So January 5th through 10th, we anticipate closing it again. So we'll begin those notifications here soon. But we remain excited to present the bridge in its final condition and reopen it to the public. It will open at the end of this week for that interim period until January 5th. Up at East 13th Street, we've had some iteration of this slide for a couple of CAGs. We are awaiting a start date for the night work that will be on the east side of the FDR Drive. So on this slide, it's the lower half in East River Park. And then that'll be followed by pile installation on the top part of this photo in that red dotted line. Those need to be installed at night because of lane closures on the FDR Drive. We expect that to be noisy and disruptive, and we continue to communicate with NYCHA Reese residents and management about that work. As we have a more concrete timeline, we will share it with you all, and of course, we'll share it with them as well. So getting into some construction photos. On the left, I thought this was just kind of a cool angle we don't often see. That is a lightning rod on top of the sports light at fields 1 and 2. That was part of the maintenance that they were doing this week. And then on the right, you can see the rebar for flood wall footing along the FDR Drive near Pier 42. And you can just see how sizable the flood wall footing is to support that structure. Here are some photos of the rail installation on the bridge. The left photo is the staircase, which once this railing activity is complete, we'll be able to reopen that staircase. And then you can kind of see on the right photo, the left side where those workers are, that is the permanent railing. That's what's going to be installed all up and down the ramp. And then the right side is still the temporary fencing. Moving further north into the closed area of the park, the left photo here is the tennis building. You can see they're starting to frame out the doors and add the bricks to the building. The fence posts are installed at the future site of Field 3 and 4 in the center photo. While these fence posts are installed, we do still have quite a bit more work to do in that area, but you can see that we are moving forward as best we can with installing the amenities in the northern section of the park. And then we've seen many trench photos before. This is one for the sewer near the track site. And then here are a pair of photos that Vanessa, our CCL, took that I found very interesting. This is the combi wall along the waterfront. You can kind of see the up and down of the pipes and the piles kind of are a rough indication of the rock that's underground. Once that they drive it down as far as they can, and once it hits rock, it stops. So this up and down follows the general line of the underground rock. Moving on to the project status and timeline, we sent you guys these slides last week, and then we went over them at Community Board 3, but I'm going to go through them again just because it's a big update. As you know, we have 42% of the park open to the community following the full transition to phase 2 in September. Because of underground obstructions that were unforeseen in the northern end, including high levels of historical construction and demolition debris, and then extensive utility conflicts, we've had to pursue some alternate engineering approaches. As a result, we now anticipate the project Area 1, I should say, to be completed in late 2027. Again, our top priority is implementing flood protection. So we do hope to have some of that in place before the full end of the project. We'll keep you posted. The photos on the bottom here show some of the excavated material that we've run into. And then on the right, you can see a damaged drill bit that once that machine hits those obstructions underground, it can really damage the machine. And that's the cause for a lot of delays. They really can add up. Just to provide some context to the history of the site, the green in this map is the natural shoreline of Manhattan. So everything that is lower than the green in this image is fill. As of 1865, the fill went out to the pink area. And then you can see the yellow outline is where present-day East River Park is. So you can see in the northern area especially, there's a lot more docks and piers and bulkheads that we're working through as we progress north than there were in the southern end. So that's sort of what we're running into. We showed this map or these older images at CB3. You can see in the water there on the left photo, there's some remnants of those piers as they're being demolished and fill is being brought in for both East River Drive, now FDR Drive, and the infill for the park. And then the right photo is the completed park. And on the north end, in both photos, you can see the gas plants up there, just right adjacent to the Con Ed facility. I do have a few bonus photos for the CAG. We didn't go through these at CB3, but given this group's investment in the site, I thought many folks would find them interesting. On the left, you can see there are members of the community on this dock swimming in the East River. This dock was approximately at the foot of the East 10th Street bridge. So that's, or I'm sorry, East 10th Street. So this is where East 10th Street would have ended. The photo on the right was taken about 5 years later. This is from the vantage point of East 4th Street. And looking up, you can see the chambers for the gas plants right next to the power plant, which is Con Edison. And then you can also see some of the fill sitting there on the side for East River Drive as well as East River Park. And then you can kind of see just along the shoreline where this kid is standing, there's a lot of timber and concrete and old construction materials that are kind of being left there as the park gets filled in. Just a few more. These sort of show the progression of that demolition. The leftmost photo shows the piers and the buildings that were along the waterfront prior to demolition for East River Drive and East River Park. Actually, on the right side of that photo, you can see East River Drive coming in. And then the middle photo shows what some of what was left behind when those docks are demolished. And then on the right, it's a mix of partially demolished docks and piers and the fill that's being brought in. So again, sorry, just providing some historical context and to give kind of a visual representation of some of the unexpected obstructions that we run into underground, in addition to, poorly mapped utilities, which is an issue, as you know, across many parts of ESCR. So to provide a little bit more detail on that timeline, the phase 2 portion of the project are the 3 lowest bars on this timeline. East River Park phase 2 will go pretty much until the end of the project. Flood walls and floodgates, like I said, we're working hard to try to implement the flood protection as quickly as possible. And then the East 10th Street Bridge is a little bit shorter than East River Park, just to indicate to nearby residents that while construction may be done on the bridge, it likely won't provide access to the park. And then moving along to what we've heard, we got a lot of questions during the timeline announcement about its impact on the 14th Street connector, which is replacing the flyover bridge that was going to go in place at the pinch point by Con Edison. I checked with DDC and it's still tracking to begin construction in early 2028 with anticipated completion in 2030. So the ESCR timeline extension does not have an impact on the connector at this point. At one of the recent CAGs, it was asked about the trees near the site of the future public restroom building. So in these images, the orange outline is roughly the footprint of the public restroom building that DDC is going to construct next to ball fields 1 and 2. And then those 3 circles are 3 trees that will need to be relocated to Corlears Hook Park to accommodate this construction. And those trees are expected to be transplanted to Corlears Hook Park tomorrow. So you will see some activity there. Moving on to air quality monitoring. Sorry, I'm having a lag here. Here are our air quality monitor locations for November. These are the same as they were in October. So again, you can see that as construction has moved further north, so have most of our air quality monitors. It was a pretty good month in November. We only had one alert over an hour. The rest were fairly limited. And in all of those cases, we applied dust mitigation techniques. Moving on to parallel conveyance. In locations 1 through 4, we have sewer installation ongoing in various stages. Locations 2 and 3 are really where the bulk of the work is happening right now. That's why the sewer installation there is highlighted in blue. At location 1 and 4, it's not quite in full force, the sewer installation. And then location 5, it remains quiet there for now. But in location 6, we anticipate some more activity picking up, including jet grouting starting on Monday of next week. We will have a formal advisory about that tomorrow. It's nothing too invasive. The advisory is sort of just letting folks in the area know that they'll start to see more activity from PC up there again. Some photos of parallel conveyance. The left 2 photos show, or this is actually another good progression of the parallel conveyance installation. On the left, you can see the manhole being installed on Lewis Street, and then in the center, it's the full PC sewer underground, deep underground. You can see those workers in the background of the photo, just deep in that trench. And then on the right side, it is the backfilling of the sewer trench, so covering up the pipe that you see in the center there. Also on Lewis Street, you can see the worker here installing the frame and casting for the manhole. This is at Broome and Lewis. And then the right 2 photos show jet grouting and secant pile installation on Delancey Street North and Delancey Street South, respectively. So some of the support that's necessary to support the parallel conveyance sewer. And then, like I said, we're just going to go over our upcoming meetings a bit. Our next CB3 meeting will be January 15th, and then our next CAG meeting is set for January 22nd. The update here is that the compost facility, instead of being presented in January, will now be presented in February. It just aligns a little bit better with targeted PDC submissions and things like that. So that one will now be in February. With that, we all would like to wish you guys a happy and healthy holiday season, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Michael.
Hi, sorry, hello, sorry about that, having some computer issues. Anyway, I came on a little bit late, so I missed a lot of the presentation, so I don't want to ask you to backtrack or anything, but just a quick question about the trees that are being transplanted tomorrow. What does that mean as far as the warranty on those trees? And do we know where they're going in the park?
Yes, I do know where they're going. The warranty I'll have to get back to you on, whether it restarts or whether it goes back to the planting here. So I'll look into that and get back to you. In terms of their location, the trees that are being moved, there's 1 hackberry tree, 2 river birches within Corlears Hook Park. I wish I could show you a map, but there's one that's going to go at the bottom of the staircase in Corlears Hook Park.
Okay,
And then there's one east of the flagpole and of the circle. So it'll be on that hill there, but it'll be east of the paved circle. And then the third is going where the FDR Drive Service Road meets Cherry Street, right at that turn.
got it. Yeah, okay, awesome, thank you.
You got it.
Diane and then Wendy.
Hey Ethan, sorry I'm not on camera. I'm outside. But I know that another topic that came up, at CB3 and also in speaking to elected officials is whether or not any of phase 2 can be opened ahead of the end of 2027. So, sort of a rolling opening the way we had in phase one. Can you speak to that?
Yes. So unfortunately, at this time, it doesn't look super likely that we will be able to have interim openings of the park. However, we are continuing to look at opportunities to do so. We're not just really taking that answer and sticking with it. We will continue to explore opportunities to do so. Similar to the timeline, as construction moves forward, there are times when it doesn't look likely that we will open it. But as things move along, there might be more opportunities that change that dynamic. And the community engagement team, as well as many others on the project, are highly interested in returning portions of the park to the public. So we will continue to try to do that.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think we'll continue to inquire about that at the CAG and at the CB3 because, especially people will especially be interested in getting some access to the waterfront a little closer to the north, right? Right now, for those of us who live at the very, northern end of phase two, it is over a mile just to get to the park. This week it's even further with the Delancey Bridge closed. So, being able to get to the waterfront more effectively would be great. And also, I mentioned this at CB3, but I'll repeat it here. I'm sure that everybody would be very interested in having the access to more of the Esplanade heading north, if that's possible.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you bringing those points back up, and I absolutely invite you to continue doing so. It will allow us to keep on the team. So thank you, and yes, I will make sure that the Esplanade message is heard as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Wendy, it's your turn.
Hi, Ethan, at the CB3 meeting, I asked about street repair adjacent to the park, because it's getting more and more treacherous out there for bicyclers, runners, and walkers. Is there any word on that? I see DOT is here today.
So I have not had a chance to speak with DOT about it. Actually, probably about an hour before this meeting, I shot you an email asking for a little bit of clarification. So
Oh.
I'm sorry to need extra assistance on the inquiry, but I am looking into it. So I would like to work with you on that.
Great. I'll look for that email. And I was going to ask you, you showed fields 3 and 4. Is that real grass or is that turf?
I'm looking at a map. I'll have to report back. I can't recall.
I hope it's grass. And I just want to say I'm surprised that there was an anticipation of the, what's underground at the north end, given all the soil testing that was done and long understanding that the manufactured gas plant was there. But boy, and you mentioned at CB3 that, and we've received a report on lead. Are there any other materials that you find down there that you have to report to the public on?
Just going back to what you said about what's underground, we have a strong understanding of the types of things that we'll find in the soil. However, much like the need to sort of open the street in order to find utilities, sometimes it's just, a piece of concrete or timber that the machine runs into. So we don't have a full view of what's underground until we're digging and drilling. So that's part of the reason why there are still surprises. And then I'll have to find out what our exact reporting requirements are on other materials. I know that lead, there's a very clear process. And of course, we test for all manner of materials and handle them all differently. But I'll have to report back on what our specific public reporting requirements are.
Because I know, the soil report from 2019 included elevated levels of, I see mercury, arsenic, and benzene, other things right in that area. So that would be interesting to know what else is, popping up. The 3 trees that are being taken out of the park, that's going to be a little structure that's there. Is it 1-story structure that the bathrooms?
Yes.
Your bathrooms
And
would have-
it is, I don't have the design on me, but I know that they have presented it, so I should be able to share that with you all.
Because that's going to be one of the few places there's shade is on the west side of that, I mean, on the east side of that building in the afternoons, right? So let's think about people will want to be sitting there, or let's have, could we have other trees there when it's done? Or even a green roof or some kind of awning perhaps off that building to increase shade. It's
Okay,
right by
certainly. I
yeah.
can take that back. I think that the design is set as part of the full contract that they gave the program managers for this package of public restrooms, but I'll take it back and see if there's any wiggle room.
Because that's really a hot spot right next to that massive amount of turf. And you have that little sprinkler thing right there, the mister is there. So just thinking that might be a good place for future shade. And is there any kind of a Gantt chart for the parallel conveyance?
I can go back to that team and get an update on that.
Thank you. I'm done. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
Christine.
Thanks. Hi, Ethan. Hi, everybody. Yes, thank you for leaving that slide there. I'm happy to hear that these trees are getting moved. But I'm also wondering, when is the bathroom construction starting?
I'm not sure if someone from GDC is on the call that could answer that, but I'll have to report back on that as well.
Okay. And, I mean, we were all really excited for the opening of the southern part. But, sort of surprised about the lack of amenities, such as bathrooms. And I'm just wondering, with the northern part being slated to be opened in 2027, are we going to see a similar pattern where the park might be open, but amenities to really fully enjoy it are still in process of getting added?
I will. You're asking if, for example, we would open the northern portion and then the city would choose to install an additional bathroom.
Yeah, or
Right.
like you would open the track and the track house isn't open yet, and there's no bathrooms.
I think
Because
right.
Obviously in the southern portion it's different because that that road that runs along the FDR, clearly you needed to bring materials into the construction that's further north. I get that. But I don't think anybody on the CAG or otherwise realized how we wouldn't have restrooms when the southern portion opened. And I think it's an issue, because we're inviting people to come to a brand new park, and then there's porta potties as the only option if they need to, and a lot of people don't enjoy using them. Let's just leave it at that. So I'm just wondering whether we will have whether you can envision a similar scenario up there, or like how complete is the park going to be once it's opened in 2027?
I think that we'll need a little bit more time to develop that vision, but I think that your feedback on the need to have bathrooms activated when the restroom is open is very helpful. So I will take that back. And I
Yeah.
will also just say that it looks like early 2026 is when the construction is anticipated to begin for the bathroom near Field 1 and 2.
And it'd be like a year?
That I'm not sure, sorry.
Yeah, well, whatever. Well, it's good to know. Again, that of course also just impacts the how that park is being enjoyed and utilized. I also, and maybe I have the wrong recollection about the reasons why, for example, it seemed like our big ball field by Houston was closed earlier than had been anticipated. And always, with sort of the reason, hey, you don't want to slow up construction. And of course, we don't want to do that. We want this construction to be done as soon as possible. But I'm surprised now that, for example, that big chunk there, especially with like Houston Street as a possible another entry point to the park, is staying completely closed until however complete the northern part. I'm going to be facetious here. However complete the northern part, once it's open, is really complete. But I'm surprised that we can't have like some of the southern sections, such as this big ball field, and another way of entering the park, be phased in and opened a little bit sooner. It seems like because we had this 42% that was promised, it seems a little bit like, okay, we're not trying very hard to open additional things because we are staying within that parameter.
I totally understand the frustration with my saying that it's unlikely that anything will open. I will say again that we are interested in returning portions of the park to the community. So, and frankly, the contractor, when they're done with a portion, they also would like to turn it over. So there are efforts to find opportunities to do so. It's just not something that I can promise at this time. On Houston Street in particular, that the retaining wall there has presented challenges of its own. So that's one of the reasons why the Houston Street area is sort of an area that we mention often in these meetings, and part of the reason why it might not be open, until the end of the project. But again, we will continue to look. This is not the final answer, so we'll continue to try to find opportunities to open stuff for you all earlier.
Thank you.
Robin, you're up.
Hi, thanks. Hi, Ethan and everyone else. I have a couple questions about this bathroom. First of all, I think, yeah, there's going to be probably dust and other things coming up when this is under construction, to consider how to manage that, especially since we're next to the ball field and there'll be kids in there playing baseball. And other people hanging around watching them. I'm wondering why this spot was chosen as to build the bathroom. So this beautiful little lawn area is not going to be dug up and turned into a building. I'm wondering how you arrived at that. I want to also thank the person who put in the rendering. But also, again, in bathroom construction, I feel like, again, I understand that there's parameters, but you're building a traditional bathroom. It's a men's room and a woman's room, and I'm wondering why other designs that aren't just toilets, like many other parks in the country have, aren't just being built. So those are my questions. How did you arrive at this location? Is this the only location that the bathroom can be? Ripping up a lawn you guys just put in? And 2, about the design, and 3, if you're then taking away this plot of land, then with this will probably, we'll have to add that percentage in of open space someplace else. Thanks.
So of course, I should have clarified earlier that the bathroom contract is entirely separate from ESCR. That's part of the reason why I don't have a lot of the answers. It is handled by a separate team of DDC. We will of course take this feedback back to them, but it's sort of unrelated to the ESCR project. It's an addition later on.
Hey Ethan, Jeff from DDC. So this is a contract for 5 separate bathrooms around the city that DDC and Parks worked on together. So this is the same contract that the bathroom for Murphy Brothers Playground up on 20th Street is coming from, or 18th Street, excuse me. There's a one in Van Cortlandt Park, Casino Park, and Brookville Park. So there's, I think that if I do my math, that's 5. So this was a standard design that DDC and Parks worked on. I believe this is the Parks standard bathroom design. So we're trying to simplify some of the procurement and also the construction. So if you have the same exact features in every single one of the 5 bathrooms, the idea is that you're saving time and money and being more efficient with the city's money. So that is the idea. In terms of the location, I believe this was the requested location, DDC working with parks. So that is essentially why it was chosen next to the fields and next to a lot of the open areas that folks were already enjoying.
Did the community board have any questions about the location or any say or any recommendations for another location?
I mean, I
When you
know
presented it
we definitely
to
presented the
community board?
design. I don't recall any specific concerns. Kristen, I don't know if you do, about
I
the
don't know if
location
you can
itself.
hear me very well, but there were no specific questions regarding the location. We did get some feedback regarding the design and some of the exterior finishes that we have taken back to the project team and are under discussion right now. But in regards to the location, I think that has been pretty set in just in regards of what parks
I mean, it looks nice in the renderings on your drawing. It's just too bad it's happening when the park is open now. We've got this nice lawn and it's going to be gone and under construction, and all of a sudden the building's going to be there. You can imagine. You can imagine that if it had happened, before you open the park, then I wouldn't be asking any of these questions.
100%. As Ethan said, this is a separate contract. It just, the funding didn't all come together at once, unfortunately. So
Okay. Okay,
just
thanks
like
for your-
the flyover, or not the flyover,
Yeah.
you know
All
what I'm
right.
talking about.
Thanks so much. Well, I hope again, I know that there's been issues with, dust and all the other things that we've been dealing with, and that's really taken into extra consideration, being that the park is going to be being used while they're constructing this. So thanks.
Diane.
Ethan, I wanted to go back to the punch list. So just have some questions about, how big is the punch list? In the southern area. I had sent you a question about why some of the paths were being dug up and replaced. Can you give us a sense of how much stuff is on the punch list, how things get on the punch list, and whether or not, we should also be pointing things out to you and the contractor that we think need to be addressed?
I'll have to circle back with you on the sort of the length and some of the other items that are on it. I will say we always appreciate when you send us things, including photos. So even if, it's on the punch list or something, we don't mind getting those emails so we can look into it and get an answer for you. But I'll take a look at what's on there now and we can get back to you.
Yeah, if we could talk about that in January, that would be great. I think we had a reasonably clear sense of some of the items that were on the punch list for Sty Cove that we talked about at the CAG. So it'd be helpful to know, I think. I think kind of to some of the points that Christina and Robin were making, people assume that when you open the park, it's done. And, a project of this size, that's probably not the case. So it'd be good to be able to talk to people about, things that were, purposely left for later because they were less important, things that have gone wrong since the park opened that need to be addressed, things like that, so that we have some sense of what's going on.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That's probably my last question for you, so have a happy holiday.
You too, Diane.
All
Thanks.
right.
Does anyone else have any questions? Frank.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I had trouble with my connections. No, I just wanted to say and just reiterate to Ethan and I guess for everyone else's benefit, but that noise that we heard in the middle of the night a couple weeks ago, just thank you for following up on that. And I can't remember. That was really this is my question, because it was very unexpected. We heard a lot of it wasn't to the level of pile driving, but it was a lot of loud noise very late at night, like 2 in the morning. But I can't remember, is that possibly going to happen again, or was that the last of it, or is that not, that's too hard to confirm?
There's an answer. I just don't know what it is. I will apologize again that we didn't provide advance notice about that.
You didn't know.
It,
Your team didn't
yeah,
know.
it
So
did
it's
take
really
us
not
by
yours to
surprise.
apologize. It's the contractors as usual, because they're the ones who usually screw us over down here.
But we have reminded them to let us know anytime there's night work. So I'll look into your specific question about how much more is expected to happen or is needed down there. And then for future night work, we hope that we will be able to provide you the notification that you deserve.
Okay, and then tied to that is I didn't make it to the last community board meeting, but I did review the slide deck. And in reference to the flood wall over on Montgomery Street, because I noticed that there was a timeline, and then there was like the extension off of that timeline, and it was related. I think yes, thank you. So the relationship, as I understood it, and it's because of the Gouverneur Gardens capital improvement project, like where the construction team built the wall and then they stepped out so we can, because there's control access zone that we've all like, it's all been legally designated via vis-a-vis contracts. And then your team is going to come back, and that's my question in this case, which I thought your team was coming back really to do the landscaping. But is there more construction work that's needing to be done?
I'm sorry that I keep promising people
No, no,
follow-ups, but
that's
I will need
fine.
to get back to you on this. I don't think that this full length of timeline is just for the landscaping. So allow me to find out
It
what it
seemed weird.
is.
That's why I'm asking, because but then again, I was telling myself like I thought it was all done. And so that's really what I'm asking, because then it seems odd to put that like the landscaping as the extended timeline, because it's sort of like it misrepresents like the actual construction part is complete. But maybe the only other thing I'll lead you into the direction of that might be helpful is my understanding is that we needed sleeves to connect to Con Ed, but I was assuming that that was already done because the wall is in there. So I don't know if there's anything related to that, which then might need the sidewalk to be broken up again. So I'm just curious, like what was actually left, as a construction part separate from, again, the landscaping that was going to be done. So that was it. Thanks.
Right, I will get back to you. Thank you.
Oh, and as everyone else said, happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Frank.
All right. Any other questions from the CAG? Okay, well, thank you so much, Ethan and team, and have a good break.
Thank
and
you.
Holiday
Happy
season.
holidays.
Yeah,
See you in
happy
2026.
holidays. All
Have a
right.
good one.
Thank you.
All right, it's time to transition to the CAG only portion of our meeting. The agenda item I had was to just follow up on have any necessary follow-up conversations on the letter that I sent to all elected officials on the CAG's behalf that you all contributed to. But before we get into that, does anyone have a different topic area they'd like to raise? All right. So I sent the letter, I think on Tuesday, and the one response I got back was from the Manhattan Borough President's Office. I shared that with you guys this morning. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but in essence, they gave us the portal, the link to the portal for their capital grant budgeting process. They said that the portal is vetted in January with a sharp February deadline for all submissions. So that it was wishing to request capital funding must do so within the funding cycle. So that's the only thing I've heard back from the letter, but what do you guys think about that? I'm not sure how to like handle the request made in the letter vis-a-vis these two different portals that we've been shown, right? The one I just mentioned from the Manhattan Borough President's Office, and then Fanny from Assembly Member Lee's office also sent over a link to a form to fill out to request capital funding from that office.
Yeah, well, the
Um,
difference is where the money's coming from. So because Fannie's dealing with state money,
Yeah.
whereas city council and the borough president should be dealing with city money.
Mhm.
And I think for, what we heard from the budget director at, I think it was Marte's office, was that
Mhm.
they didn't need us to formally apply because we're not really a formal entity. And I think
Yeah.
that that's probably a conversation that needs to be had with the budget director at the borough president's office, because they probably just sent you their template. Here's a
Yeah.
response. Somebody wants the
Mhm.
money. So I think it warrants, an email back to say, hey, can we have a phone call or something to explain the situation, because we are not an entity that can apply.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Like, we're not a nonprofit, so like there must be ways in which we could still acquire that funding. Otherwise, maybe we have to, I mean, I don't know what the otherwise is, to be honest. But I guess to Michael's point, just to be aggressive about that, and they should figure out how to make it work, perhaps.
Yeah, and we might be able to, is it the budget director from Marte's office that was the one that said you don't need to apply, or am I
Yes.
making that up? Okay.
Yep.
So we might be able to even leverage that person and be like, hey, can you help us communicate the same thing to the borough president's budget
Mhm.
director, because you probably know them.
Yep.
Yeah, but small detail, we will have a new borough president.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, well, it's not a small detail, really. But I think we heard the same thing from Stye Cove, right? There was no formal
Yeah.
application process. There was just, I think Keith Powers putting money in for a sheet or whatever it was that they needed. So, yeah, I think we should leverage what we heard from, I think their name is Andy.
Yes. Andy Lee.
Yeah. And I think also, even though Brad Hoyleman's coming in as the new borough president, that doesn't mean the budget director's changing. Sometimes they keep the staff that they inherit if they're good people.
That's interesting. You know, I clicked through
That's
the
true.
I clicked through the JOT form, and it almost looks like that's the form, that the first link that you say you want to have a meeting. So I think we have to do that in order to get an appointment to discuss the capital. It says FY25, but and one thought maybe we can discuss here for a minute is either Friends of Corlears or Lower East Side Ecology Center. Would either of your organizations be a conduit for this, possibly?
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing, Wendy, because we also have other nonprofits involved. So we do have a selection of nonprofits that we could,
Oh.
involve in this if that seems like a good idea. But I agree that we should get some more guidance.
Yeah, I mean, we've applied before through other borough presidents. We stopped applying with Mark Levine because he just never gave money to the Lower East Side. So that's my non-political opinion. But yeah, so I know the process. I haven't done it in a while, but I'm familiar with the process. So if the budget director does say, no, somebody has to apply, then, I'm sure the rest of the board at Friends of Corlears wouldn't mind us doing that. I would just need to check with them. But I think we should still explore the opportunity of like trying to meet with this person and say, like, this is a special circumstance. What can be done other than forcing an organization to apply on our behalf.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, the community advisory group is a special circumstance, and I think that would be the first conversation to have.
Christine has her hand up.
Yes. Sorry. Go ahead, Christine.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm also wondering, I don't know whether Therese is still on from Parks.
Nope.
Oh, but well, it's okay. I think we should also engage with parks and just see, how they feel about it, and because they could also, quote unquote, apply, and any money that we raise will end up in their budget anyhow. I mean, it's even if, let's say, Michael or any nonprofit that, if it comes to that, applies on behalf of the CAG, this money you will never see in your bank account. This is money that goes straight to the Parks Department budget.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I'm also curious, or maybe we should just, reach out to parks, maybe reach out to Steve Simon or to Max or to somebody at the Manhattan office, or maybe to the commissioner, and find out what they would advise.
What if I reached out to Therese?
I think that's a good start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'll do.
I think so too. In fact, I was going to suggest parks as well. I think a reason, I think, maybe especially given a tight time frame to get that little form up there. Thank you for doing that.
All right, so my next steps are to,
Thank you.
yeah, no, it's my job, are to reach out to the Manhattan Borough President's Budget Director and explain the situation. And see what the next steps could be, and then I'll also reach out to Therese. Anything else? Okay, I have one other thing. This is also about shade, but after the last CAG, you guys had me reach out to see, let's learn our lesson and see if we can get shade proactively incorporated into the northern end of the park that is still under construction. And you saw I shared Ethan's response to that question, and they suggest that we make a formal request to parks about asking for a design change so that shade structures are included. So I should go ahead and do that, correct? Any objections to my doing that?
No, let's take the suggestion.
Yes, so I will draft a letter on your behalf. But as far as timing, I mean, I feel like I could write the letter and send it, but do you guys want to see it before I send it?
Yeah, and honestly, there's going to be a lot of both agency people and staff at elected officials who are just not around, Nick, the week between
Yeah.
Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah,
I think most business is going to resume January 5th.
yeah.
So that
Should I just
seems
do
like
it then?
it seems like a
Yeah.
reasonable target to me. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And should I address the letter to Therese?
No, I think it should probably go to
Someone
Steve
higher.
Simon.
Oh, yeah, you guys just mentioned Steve Simon. Who is that?
He is the chief of staff for the Manhattan Borough
Oh, for Tisha?
commissioner.
Okay, got it.
And he was here for the, the ribbon cutting. He's often at CB3.
Okay.
Well, maybe not this year, but often in the past.
Okay. So, but again, so I can, it's a pretty straightforward letter and I can send it January 5th, but do you guys want to have an opportunity to look at it first?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. If you send it
Okay.
to us before the holidays, we will have to get it back, any comments or concerns back to you so that you can send
Okay.
it January 5th.
Okay,
Yeah, I was just
Sounds
say the
like a
same thing.
plan.
I mean, just if we don't get back to you, then you send it. But
okay. Give you a chance to look at least.
yeah.
Okay.
I have another idea.
Uh-huh.
I'm starting trouble again.
Uh-oh.
Watch out. Do we want to keep it to like this design changes to shade structures, or do we want to maybe discuss and brainstorm a little bit more about lessons learned and what else we could ask to change?
You mean like placement of benches so that they're actually near shady things and kids areas have a little more, but It's,
I think the more we ask for, the easier it's going to be for them to say, no, we can't do this all.
Yeah. Yeah,
But-
it was just an idea, whether we want to come with a long list or whether, and I mean, shade is obviously a priority.
Yeah, the ball fields for sure.
Yeah, or with the ball fields, could we advocate for a grass ball field instead of artificial turf, because they are all artificial turf, planned to be artificial turf.
Could we also advocate for, some kind of dugouts that have permanent shade? They didn't build that on the southern end.
But
Sam,
I'm
Sam
just saying I think there is opportunity, but it's also a question of strategy of like, what is your top priority? And you don't want it to get lost and in something where they just throw up their arms and say, no, go home. You're not doing anything.
Sam has his hand
I
up.
was just about to call on Sam.
Just say in the application or when the grant is given, it should just say for shade structures and other enhancements. That way there's some flexibility. If they find funding for shade elsewhere, we can use these funds for other enhancements, or if there's extra money or whatever. That's, I've done that. We've done that in the past, with other capital funding for other sources. So just keep it flexible. But I would not go to them and be like, I need $300,000 for a grass field, and I need, 600,000 for lighting. I would just keep it focused on the shade structures.
well, I'm one of the people who's still thinking we need a dog run at the north end. I don't have a dog. I hear complaints from people saying there's dogs out, not on leashes all the time on that big lawn that's new. And the only dog run at the north end is going to be in on the other side of the drive. So not so accessible to dogs. So rather than have another basketball court there, instead have a dog run is what I had suggested. And I know it's probably too late for that, and it's, just
Yeah.
adds confusion and whatever.
Well, I'd like to comment on some of these things. So I think that there is a group out there advocating for a dog run as well. The challenge with that is that Parks is going to do what Parks does with dog runs, and they're going to make a dog run that has a hard surface. And that is not going to solve the people who don't want their dog on a hard surface and let their dogs run around on the turf fields and the lawns because they feel that that is healthier for their dog than to be on a hard surface. So and I'm a dog owner myself, but the people who don't want to use a dog run and would rather let their dog run around on the lawn or on the fields are not going to change their behavior if you give them a dog run in the north, because the dog run is still going to be a hard surface and they're not going to like it. And I think that, I mean, I'm not opposed to advocating for grass as opposed to turf, but from my time on the community board and from all the other meetings I've gone to about this subject, they're not going to relent on that. They like turf because it's easier maintenance than grass.
Wendy, do you want to respond to that or?
No, I
Okay. Oh, your
understand
hand
that.
is up from before.
Oh, the only other thing I was going to mention is I heard from Governor's Island, their 18-foot umbrellas cost $10,000 a piece, just so we know. Just wanted to pass that on. So I'll take my hand out.
All right, thanks. Frank?
Yeah, the only thing I would say in regards to a dog run is like, personally, I love the idea, but I could be wrong, but my observance of dog owners in this neighborhood in particular, because there's a problem in Pier 42 that people just let their dogs go into the children's play area all the time, and they're letting their dogs urinate and defecate on turf areas that I find kids playing in the exact location like hours later. And I say that because I think there's a lot of people who have dogs who, even with a dog run, they are not going to use it. they are going to want to have their dogs off leash running around the park because there's no, necessarily there aren't cars around, and that's just what they believe for their dogs, right or wrong. So I just don't know that the effort is going to be worth it because it's a great idea, but I mean, Michael knows in his park, Corliers, they have a dog run, but it doesn't seem to matter. I mean, I see people just right next door to the dog run letting their dogs run around in the grass.
Correct.
So I just think it's unfortunate. I don't know how we change that culture, but I just don't know that the lift is worth it because I think in the end it's still going to be used by a scarce amount of people for some unknown reason. That's the behavior that I witnessed in this neighborhood.
Yeah, and just to go back to the main topic here about, sending a letter to the Parks Department for design changes. I really think that the simpler the better. I think if we ask for too much, they're just going to ignore it. I think if it's a very focused ask of, a lesson learned, the biggest lesson learned from the opening of the south section was the lack of shade throughout the park and the ball fields. Can that be remedied in the design of the upper part before it's constructed?
I don't think there's anything wrong with including the thing that Wendy brought up, which is about the placement of benches. That is not, as invasive, I think, as, like a dog run or something like that. Because I agree that the placement of the benches in the south end is like all the benches are in the sun. There's no shade for humans. I don't think it would hurt to include that. And it is, something we want without being, it can't be that expensive to just put the benches in different places.
We could ask them to take a walk on a hot sunny day and see what they can learn from the south end as they're getting ready. I always think people are in offices and don't really know how things are used in real life. But I don't have much else to add.
All right, well, I'll take a stab at this letter, and I think given the conversation, I will go for relative simplicity and straightforwardness.
I think Robin's raising her hand.
Yep,
I
yep.
wanted to go back to what you said, Wendy. I mean, it's not a bad idea to get them in on a walk and say, okay, lessons learned before you build the park. These are the things that we notice need to be changed. And they can't tell us, sorry, it's already done because they haven't built it yet. I think that's a great idea if it's at all possible. Who knows?
It might be 6 months from now, and then when it's really that hot day.
Yeah, that's what yeah. The real impressive nature of the beating sun won't happen for a while.
The only other thing that I've thought about
They can use
is
their imaginations.
it's very hard for emergency crews to get down there. There was some incident in the last couple of weeks where they couldn't get through the bollards at Corliers in their vehicles. And I had asked before for rings, like lifesaver rings along the fence here and there. And they said only OSHA areas, only where there's active construction do they do that. But to me, that's like like $100 thing that could actually save lives or help somebody be rescued. I don't know if it's worth including, but maybe that's keep it to shade and keep it simple.
Any other comments?
Yeah,
Oh,
keep
Christine?
it simple. Let's stay with our priority.
Okay, well, I'll whip this up tomorrow and I'll send it out to you guys by the end of the day tomorrow.
Thank you.
And give you a deadline of a few days. Well, no, not a little more than that, but if I don't need it back until early January. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And if I don't talk to you before, have a great end of year. And I'll see you in the new year.
Yeah. Happy
Happy New
holidays,
Year.
you.
Happy
Thank
holidays.
everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone. All
Thanks,
right.
Paula, for everything. Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Good
And
Thanks.
Tara,
Happy New
thank
Year,
you.
everybody. Happy New Year.
See you in the park.
Good night.